So once that's nice and clean, you're going to have a lip. We want the lip facing upward, super flat on the bottom. The split can go anywhere. There's no orientation on the steer tube. And just slide this on, drop it, push it down. As long as it feels like it made full contact, you're done. The split's actually sitting here. Like I said, I could spin it, put it anywhere, it doesn't matter. But it's sitting flat there. We're gonna put a layer of grease on that when we're ready to reinstall. All right, so when you come in, definitely want to move your bars up so you get between all your cabling. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall my lower bearing. And we're going to put a little grease on the base. That's our crown race. Very similar amount to what we did for the race on the bottom, on the headset frame. And then orientation-wise, I have a minor angle at the top, very flat on the bottom, so I want the flatness to sit on the flatness here. So flat here, slight angle, that's going to mesh that angle inside the frame. And just keep that pressure upward, and from here you could give it a little turn left and right, just make sure things are feeling decent. Again, it should feel pretty buttery smooth. Wipe any excess grease that got on the steer tube. We don't want grease there where the stem is going to clamp. Come back with our bearing. I already got grease inside here. Angled portion facing down. It's going to mesh up perfectly. And then we have our little top cap slash angle extension here. Basically this guy splits. When you press down on it, it's going to take any wobble that we have in here. Once this gets pressed down, it kind of takes a lot of that away. Then we're going to follow it up with the same amount of spacers that he had. 3, 4. It's got about 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are about 5 mil. That's not a bad number to have if you're just trying to feel out a bike. And we're going with our stem. Make sure orientation is correct. Always keep a hand on your fork. If you got to walk away, put a strap on it of some sort. Okay, now I have a couple more spacers that was on there. I'm going to follow the same thing. Gives yourself a little leeway. You could use it as your marker. From that point, you're going to go down about 3 mil, and you're going to make another line cut, and that's what we're actually going to cut. So the steer tube is going to fall 3 millimeters below the top surface of whatever you have here, whether it's a spacer or a stem. Always got to have 3 millimeters of a gap to allow for proper adjustment, and that'll come in later. And then here we got a little lip showing still, but that's where our 2 other spaces came into play. So it just gives you a little more room to play with, just in case you want to play with your stem height here. Rule of thumb is if say you're downhilling, all you're doing is downhilling and your body's kind of shifted back. Usually there's no spacers, the stem is slammed all the way down to the body or to the frame. That's going to give you a little bit quicker steering. Think of it, say you had a huge gap, or say you had a 12-inch gap here. By the time you turn your bar, it kind of translates into a slow tire turn, so your steering is going to be very delayed. Before I tighten that, pressure up, stem down, just kind of compressing everything. And I'm not too worried about handlebar being straight or not. I'm going to snug this up pretty good, just 1 bolt. It's going to hold everything for me if I got to let go. Give my arm a break there. And you're just giving it a little turn. Checking your gap here, similar to what you had before, so hopefully you check that gap before you disassembled. Some bikes may have a 1 mil gap, 2 mil, 3, 4, or 5, so everything's turning good. If something was wrong, it would let you know right now. It would turn very roughly. It wouldn't flop around like that. Got to feel like melted butter. If it's running rough, and you may not know this until we do final adjustment. So all I did was compress with my hand. So I already have my star nut in place. This is going to sit on top, and my sleeve is going to slide over just like that. So now I have room. I'm nowhere near my stem, so I've got plenty of room here. All I'm going to do is brace the frame, or brace the bottom of the fork. And I'm going to smack this top here. Make sure the bike's secure in the repair stand, nothing's loose, and then we're just going to pound this. So there's a gap here that's going to drive itself down. It's going to disappear, and it's going to drive this star nut into a certain spot, and it will stop for me. You can hear that tone change. Then you're going to unscrew this guy. releasing it from the star nut. This here, so I just got all the looseness out with fingertips. Now I'm just going to give it a gentle snugging, maybe a half turn, feel a little bit of resistance. That's, you know, you're touching your bearings. Good chance you took a good majority, if not all, your play out. You still want to be moving. Give it a little turn. Still spinning nice and smooth like butter, so everything went well. Just going to do a rough alignment with the handlebars and the fork. And right now, it's just with the one bolt here. Fork's going to stay in place, it's not going anywhere. So we can go ahead and hook up our caliper, which kind of intertwined here. And your routing, with the Fox forks, you're going to run the line in between the fork legs. It's going to sit like that, so your housing is going to look closest to the wheel or your spokes. Looks counterintuitive, but that works. That's the way they want it, and haven't seen any issues whatsoever. Make sure you have right orientation. Any logos on your caliper, you want to be able to read them. And make sure you have the appropriate bolts. If you have a long bolt, short bolt, make sure it's going in the proper location. You don't want to stick a long bolt in a short side of the fork. If you do, just turn gently. You may feel some extra resistance, letting you know that, hey, you bottomed out. And again, I'm going to keep these bolts. I'm going to go 100% tight there. Boom, back off maybe one revolution. That's going to keep the caliper a little bit loose. If I tighten it up, it could be in a wrong position and will not accept the wheel or rotor. So you just want some jiggle right there. So that's good. And then we can go ahead and put our cable routing, little cinch clamp here on your fork. Let's see, so they gave us a new one. They gave us a new little plastic clamp. It's going to be a little square area, and that's like a little rubber pad or foam pad. Actually, they changed it. It used to be a foam pad with an adhesive, but that would fall off over time. So now they just gave us a piece of plastic with a square orientation. It's going to fit in there. It's going to match it up. So we're going to clamp around our hose. And this little bolt has a little bit of white or yellowish material, and it's just a splash. Anytime you see some type of paint on your threads, it's most likely a thread locker. Smaller the bolt, the less torque we use, which means it could also work its way free, so the thread locker is going to keep those screws from vibrating free. It's going to stop them from moving. So this guy's offering a little bit of a challenge. Got the plastic piece that actually wants to stay open, but we need the screw to run through here all the way through so it can make contact with your fork. So we need to squeeze that closed, get enough screw purchase to come through so we can get it started here without screwing up our threads in the fork. We're going to try this all by itself. Just you're going to get the idea of what angle, what line you need to take coming in. Yeah, see that right there. I got it that engaged right there. And another small little detail, so the paint, the thread locker they put on there, they did a good job because they put it more or less in the middle. They left me 2-3 threads of free, no paint on it, so that means I can have a good shot of getting in here cleanly rather than hitting thread locker right off the bat. So I can kind of get an idea of what line I need. That's my straight line, so I could be off this way, I could be off this way, or... But now that I know that, now I got to fight the plastic as well as this hydraulic line. The screw through, expose my threads, then focus on a straight line. Easier said than done. All with finding the appropriate pressure. Sweet, got it. And I'm going to do this nice and snug, 2 fingertips. As soon as you feel it hit stop, we're going to go just a little extra, boom. And in most cases, you still can slide this through if you need to. If you can't slide this up or down, just loosen a little bit and then pull appropriately. So I need to pull this slack up. So I'm going to loosen this a little bit. Pull my hose up. Ooh, that's a tough one. So I'm pulling all my slack upward. There we go. course, I may leave this loose for now. I'm gonna align my caliper first, then I'll come back here and pull my slack, because when I pull this up, it actually wants to move the whole caliper. So I'm gonna leave whatever slack it needs, but don't forget to come back and tighten that guy. Just a real thin coating of grease, a transparent coat of grease on this, a little bit on the threads, and you'll be okay. It's such a tight fit. If you overdo it on the grease, it's just gonna kind of accumulate on the end and make a big mess. I'm just gonna put a little splash there, a little bit on the thread, and then just move it around by finger. So here's a little issue on this newer fork. We have a smallish opening, this roundness right here. That's a smaller opening than what is shown on my stock original hub on my ends, the cap ends. Let's take a look. So this whole diameter is much too big, bigger than the opening I just showed you on the fork. So this needs to come off. These they're kind of free floating. They are end caps, so we're going to pull that off, see if it'll adapt to the fork. Okay, can't get it with finger. Oh, there we go. Whew. These might need an adapter. So I'm seeing bearing right there. We might need another cap, style cap.